There's no better time than now, be boundless. First I gotta get up off this futon, get my bags packed tight, put my shoes on.
Hey guys, Friday afternoon. I'm about to head into to work and teach about 6-7 hours straight. So I'm here at the mall just before my shift starts. Time to go to work. Why is this thing so exposed? Anyways, that's the plaza eating area. Let me see if I can fix the exposure. Coffee shop on the right. So my first lesson is with this little 7-year-old boy, and he has a very resistive attitude. But over the months I've kind of gotten him on track and with a reward system. So he really looks forward to the end of the lesson because we get to play a game if he has been good during the lesson. That seems to work with him. But still, you know, it takes energy out of me, mental energy. So yeah, that's gonna be the next 45 minutes of my life. Now, he's a cool little kid though. I think someday he'll remember me. Hey guys, how y'all doing? Today is Sunday, it's my day off. My day off just means I don't hold myself accountable to do anything productive really. And I take a day off from exercising. Been exercising 6 days a week now, alternating park workouts with my running days. And I've been feeling pretty good about that, a lot more energy. I think I'm gonna put this video to some footage of me walking around the share house that I lived in, the last share house that I lived in Osaka, and that was in early 2016. But first, the point of this video is I just want to talk about my experience living there. So before I lived in that share house, I actually had lived in 2 other share houses when I lived in Tokyo. I think I lived in Tokyo in the year 2004. I'm not quite sure about that. But during my year that I lived in Tokyo, I lived in 2 different share houses. They were pretty good. You got your own room. It was a small room. And the first one I lived in, I think the rent was about 50,000 yen a month. That would be about $500 US. And you know, it's a lot of young people and some Japanese people as well, mostly young Japanese girls that were curious about foreigners. And you know, I fit in at the time. I was 29 years old. And the rooms were pretty private, you know, thick doors, thick walls. I remember the first share house I lived in, you had to put coins in this machine to make the air conditioner or the heater work. And they were 100 yen coins, which is about $1. And I think it would run the air conditioner or the heater for about 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes you'd have to put in a coin to keep the air conditioner going. So what I did is I got a piece of dental floss and I wrapped it around a 100 yen coin and I taped it on there. And I just put the coin in, turned the air conditioner on, and then pulled the coin out, and I just kept on doing that. I think one day I jammed that machine though, and I had to come clean with what I was doing. But yeah, I never really had any major problems in the share houses I stayed in Tokyo. I think they call them gaijin houses. The second one I lived in was 60,000 yen a month, so that's about $600 a month. I didn't have any problems there per se. It was a pretty big gaijin house. You know, I had like 50 plus rooms, but they were really tiny rooms. I mean, I know that this room that I live in is small, but I mean, these were like ultra tiny. I mean, it was like, you can see my wall right here. It was like, well, I'd say, yeah, it was maybe half of this width. So if you put your futon on the floor, you didn't have any space to walk around. That was it. I had a desk. You had a desk. There's a desk right here. That's what my camera's sitting on. My bed is right here. You can see it. See, I'm pointing to it right here. So there was like a bunk bed, I guess, with really hard springs. So I'd lay my futon on the floor, and that was it. That took up the whole room. So it was a very cramped living space. But you know, these places were easier to move in and out of than apartments at that time. You know, with those apartments, man, they get you into these really complicated contracts and you have to pay all this money and these ridiculous fees that they don't refund back to you. It's a lot different than the United States. So the one and only share house that I lived in Osaka, that was in early 2016, and I moved out of this expensive room that I was paying for at that time. It was really nice. We had a balcony view of Osaka. Really nice place, but the rent was expensive, and I was trying to downgrade all my belongings into 2 suitcases. And this is before I was planning to go to America, but I didn't go to America. I actually ended up going to Thailand, as you guys know. So like 3 or 4 months before I was gonna leave Japan, I decided to just whittle down all my stuff to 2 suitcases and move into this share house, which was just down the street from where I lived. And it was different than the other share houses I lived in Tokyo. In Tokyo, again, I don't know if the terminology is correct. I think they call them gaijin houses. This was a share house. It was literally a house that you share. Whereas the gaijin houses I lived in Tokyo, they were more designed for real privacy in your room. I mean, they were completely autonomous, except for the bathroom and the kitchen, which were shared, but you really had a sense of privacy when you were in your room. You couldn't hear through the walls or anything like that. The only time you didn't have privacy is when you went to the bathroom or when you went to the kitchen, and they also had like a communal area to watch TV or something. But the share house that I lived in, and what you're seeing video of now, it was a house, and it was probably an old house. I believe it was an old house. And it was really cold inside. It didn't have central heating. So they put an air conditioner in each room. And when they say air conditioner, yeah, it's an air conditioner, but it also has a heating function as well. The rooms ranged from, I'll speak in dollars so it's easier to understand. The rooms range in rent from about $350 a month up to about $600 a month. So my room was the cheapest one. That was $350 a month, and it was pretty small. The $600 a month room was a big room, nice room. And there was like 7 rooms in this house. But unlike the gaijin houses, there was no sense of privacy. The walls were really thin. There was, my room, for example, had a sliding wooden door. So, I mean, I could hear everything outside, going on outside. And they could hear everything going on in my room. So, even when I was in my room, I didn't feel like I had privacy. And that was a very uncomfortable feeling. I didn't like it. So, whenever I talk on the phone, I'd have to go outside. You know, sometimes you don't want to go outside because it's cold out, or you just don't feel like going outside. When I watch videos or movies or whatever, I usually put in my headphones because I didn't want the people outside to know what I was watching, and I didn't want to disturb them either. And when I moved in there was this one older Japanese woman living there. She was older than me, I think. She was in probably her late 40s. And at first she was really nice. She really came off to me as a gaijin hunter. Like, she was there to thrive off the interaction with foreigners. And she had this attitude like, you all are foreigners and I'm Japanese, so I'm going to take care of you. And also I'm the boss of this house because I'm Japanese. And I know how everything works in this country, and you're foreigners and you're kind of dumb. You don't really understand how this country works. So I'm the leader here. That was her attitude. And she was really nice at first. But she was also really like territorial and particular about how things were. It's like, even though it was a share house and we were all paying our share, it's like she was making these rules, and if you didn't follow her rules, she would write little notes like calling you out. The way she dealt with issues was really passive aggressive. Now some of the foreigners there were new to Japan, and there was a guy, I remember there was a guy from Denmark. He was probably the coolest guy in that house to me. I mean, he's the guy I got along with best. He was 28 years old, he spoke fluent English, and he was looking for a job. It was his first time trying to live and work in Japan. Actually, from a lead that I gave him, he actually ended up finding a company that sponsored him to teach English. He spoke English like a native. He spoke whatever their native language is in Denmark. He spoke that language, and he was fluent in Japanese too. He had a master's degree in Japanese. But him and I got along well. Let's see, who else? There was a younger American guy living there as well, and he was so strange. He never talked to me, hardly ever talked to me. I remember this one time he brought this girl back to his room, and he seemed kind of, I don't know, he could have been gay, or he could have been what they call metrosexual. He kind of had that vibe going with him. So like, there was this one day he brought a Japanese girl. I guess he was studying Japanese in Osaka. He was just a student, he wasn't working. He brought a girl back from his school into his room, and like, I could hear him like laughing and, you know, joking around and stuff in his room. And I was like, okay dude, like, here's your chance, you can get laid now. Like, and I was kind of like, inside I was kind of like rooting him on, but it never happened because I could hear him talking the whole time. And it's like, the way he was interacting with her was really awkward. I don't know, I just would have done things differently, I guess. But let's see, yeah. So there were those two guys, and there was me. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else. Yeah, so I guess it was the three of us. And the Japanese girl, she just took it up. She was, you know, woman, I guess. She took it upon herself to be the leader, and she was really freaking annoying. I was cooking one night, and she came over and she turned on this fan. What is it called? A vent. And she turned it on, and as soon as she turned it on, I turned it off. And she said, no, you have to turn it on. And I said, when I'm cooking here, I'm going to do what I want, and you don't come over here and interfere with me. And when you're cooking, you can do what you want. So yeah, that was pretty much the day that our congenial relationship stopped, and you know, she kind of knew my true feelings. I mean, there were so many like retarded little things that, like, she had all these rules, and kind of like the way she acted represented the way a lot of I've experienced Japanese people, especially in a work environment. They create a lot of unnecessary rules. I'm trying to think of some examples. Like, for example, we would all hang our clothes in this one room that wasn't rented out. And to make the clothes dry faster, I opened the door, like the balcony door, to the outside so that the air would come in and dry the clothes. And she just had a shit attack about that. She's like, no, 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 you can't keep that door open. It'll get too cold inside. And I mean, I don't know, so whatever. And then there was a bathtub, and there's a plug to the drain, and there's a chain attached to the plug, and that chain was broken. So every time you wanted to take the plug out of the plug hole, you'd have to reach all the way down. You have to get in the bathtub, reach all the way down and pull it out. I fixed it. I joined it back to the chain. Well, that pissed her off, and she disassembled it again, and it didn't make any sense. It was like a lot easier to have it functional, but it was just stuff like that. I think she was the kind of girl that most Japanese guys wouldn't be interested in because she was too old, kind of set in their ways, had a very dominant personality, and somehow she thought that she would be better off with foreign guys. So I think she had a thing for foreign guys. And I remember she brought this Peruvian guy over one afternoon, and they hung out in the kitchen for like 4 hours. And just like watching them flirt with each other was really freaking awkward. This guy was pretty good looking. He spoke Japanese really well. And I was thinking, dude, like, out of all the hot Japanese women around here, that's what you're that's what you're working so hard for? So anyways, I ended up moving out of there at the end of March, and I remember it was the day I was moving out. I didn't tell the managing company that I was moving out because I knew they were gonna just make it really difficult, and I just wanted to get out of there. I knew they were gonna keep my deposit, so I was like, you know, forget, you know, it's not even worth the trouble. And I had a bunch of stuff, and like they have like these certain days that you're supposed to take out certain kinds of trash, and I just, you know, it's like I was going to Thailand the next day. I didn't have time to deal with that BS, and I didn't have that much stuff to throw out, but I had some stuff like my futon, I had a wooden desk, and they had my deposit, which was like almost $400, and I knew they weren't going to give it back. So I cleaned the room. I left it in a very neat, like I cleaned it, everything was organized, and just like the stuff that I wasn't gonna bring with me was like neatly stacked in a corner. And I was like, God, I gotta get out of here before 6 o'clock, before she comes back from work. Because I knew if she saw me moving out, she was just gonna have a temper tantrum, and then she was gonna call the managing agency, and it was just gonna be a big fiasco, and I didn't want to deal with it. And it was coming right up on 6 o'clock, and I wasn't ready yet. And I remember I was hustling so hard to get out of there by 6 o'clock. Literally walked out the front door about 5 minutes before she got back home. And what happened was she threw a big temper tantrum. She ended up calling the managing agency, and they were like blowing up my phone. And I was going to Thailand the next day. I had so much stuff to take care of, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So she never made it easy, even until the end. And yeah, that was my experience in that share house. I think even if we had had more privacy in our rooms, I still would not have enjoyed living there just because of that person. I mean, to balance her out, there was that cool guy from Denmark. But it's like one bad apple can really spoil the whole bunch, really. I mean, even if there's some cool people living there, if there's somebody there that you just, is just annoying and stupid, like, it can really ruin a potentially good experience. So guys, that was my experience living in that share house. It was survivable because I knew I was only gonna be there for 3 months. Would I do it again? No, not if I didn't have to. I mean, if I'm transitioning and, you know, I know for sure that I'll be leaving in 2 or 3 months, I might do it again, but I really hate not having privacy. I would never live in a share house if it was going to be a semi-permanent kind of thing. So that was my story, guys, and hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.
Baby, but you know I never will. No, so I choke you.